So guys, you know the situation we've been dealing with all offseason with our WR1 torn ACL, torn meniscus, and ever since that happened, it's just been report after report, guessing whether he's even playing week 1 or opening the season stuck on the sideline. And going into today, I was honestly expecting the worst, figured we'd hear he's landing on the PUP list once camp opens. Instead, the Giants just released their PUP list of players as camp gets going, and there's a name missing from it that I did not expect to be missing. So, stick around, because I'm going to break down exactly who it is, what it means, and why I think it's a real sign about Week 1 against Dallas. What's up, Big Blue? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Giants. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Alright, so let's get into it. Like I said, going into today, I had myself mentally prepared for bad news on Malik Nabers. That's just been the vibe all offseason, right? You hear one report saying he's not going to practice at all this summer, then the other report saying he'll be out there early. Then other is telling you he's not ready till week 5 and he's starting the year on the PUP list. Honestly, it's been all over the place, and I think a lot of us just kind of brace for the worst because that's human nature. You protect yourself from disappointment. But today, we got the actual list. The Giants turned in their active PUP list as camp gets rolling, and Malik Nabers is not on it. And guys, I gotta tell you, that is a genuinely big deal, way bigger than people are going to give it credit for. Because this isn't some vague update from a guy on Twitter, this is the team itself telling you, through their actions, where they think he's at physically. Now here's why I think this matters so much for week 1. Jordan Ronan over at ESPN, he's the same guy who a couple months back said he wouldn't be surprised at all if Nabers wound up on the PUP list and missed the first month of the season. That was out there, that was a real number people were circling, 4 games gone before he even suits up. But today, Ronan's reporting shifted completely. He's now saying that Nabers is expected to avoid the PUP list, and that how he comes back is going to be based off how he progresses through the summer. That's a total change in direction from where the conversation was sitting even a few weeks ago. Now look, I want to be honest with you, I'm not saying we're totally out of the woods here. It's still possible he goes out there, doesn't look right, and later gets shut down and moved to that reserve PUP list, and if that happens, that's an automatic 4 games missed to open the year, no way around it. But the fact that the Giants didn't even start him on the active list tells me they're not worried about that scenario. Because think about it this way, if they had any real doubt, if the medical staff wasn't confident, they would have played it safe and put him on active PUP right out of the gate just to cover themselves. They didn't do that, so that alone tells me a lot about where his knee actually is right now. So what does this actually mean for his workload this summer? I don't think we're going to see Malik Nabers doing full go, full speed, cutting on a dime in the first couple days of camp. That's just not realistic coming off a torn ACL and a torn meniscus. I think what we're going to see instead is a slow climb. I think early on he's in individual work, he's doing some side drills, maybe some walkthroughs, getting comfortable being back around the building and around his teammates before they ever throw him into any live team period. And that actually lines up with something John Harbaugh said not too long ago. He mentioned that Cam Skatibo would be ready to go right at the jump of training camp, full participant, no restrictions. But when it came to Nabers, he said he's a little bit behind Skatibo, not going to be doing everything right away, but it shouldn't take him long to catch up, and I think that's exactly the blueprint here. Slow him in, let him build confidence in that knee doing individual drills and side work, then start layering him into 7-on-7s, then eventually the full team reps. It's not going to be a light switch, it's going to be a process, and I actually respect that they're not rushing it. Now here's the part that I think people are sleeping on. It's not just about Nabers' knee being healthy enough physically, it's about him being mentally caught up too. This Giants offense is brand new this year. New coaching staff, top to bottom, new scheme being installed, and you've got Jaxson Dart going into year 2 now with a lot more on his plate. More freedom to actually make checks and adjustments at the line instead of just playing off a simplified game plan like a rookie usually does. So, if Nabers is sitting at home rehabbing and not in the building, he's not just missing reps, he's missing install, he's missing terminology, he's missing every single walkthrough where this offense is getting drilled into everybody's head. That's exactly why I think it's so important that he's in those meetings and walkthroughs, even if he's not doing every physical rep yet. Because you can't just show up week 1 of the season and expect to be on the same page as your quarterback if you miss the entire installation of a brand new system. Chemistry with Jaxson Dart isn't just about running routes against air, it's about the two of them being on the same page, mentally knowing where each other's eyes are going to be, knowing the adjustments, knowing the language of this new offense. And honestly, that's probably the single biggest reason the Giants wanted him active and not on PUP, because PUP would have locked him out of all of that classroom and walkthrough work too. So, when you put it all together, I actually feel pretty good about where this is heading. Now let's shift over to a couple other names on that list, because Nabers avoiding it isn't the only story here. Roy Robertson-Harris is on that active PUP list, and honestly, that one's not a shock to anybody who's been paying attention. He tore his Achilles during OTAs earlier this offseason, so this was expected the second that injury happened. Now here's an interesting detail though, the Giants are not putting him on season-ending injured reserve. They actually believe he's got a shot to return by the end of the season, potentially in that final month if things go well. And that's a real thing, that's not just hopeful talk because there's precedent for it. Our Darius Washington, who's now on this Giants roster, tore his Achilles last spring during OTAs with the Ravens, and he actually made it back onto the field by week 15 that same season. So it's not unheard of for a guy to tear his Achilles in the spring and still find his way back onto the field before the year's out. For a defensive tackle room that's been kind of rebuilt and is a little thin right now, getting Roy Robertson-Harris back for even a stretch run into the playoffs would be a real boost. He started all 17 games last year, so this is a starting caliber piece potentially coming back at the right time if the Giants are in the mix late in the season. So don't be shocked if, later this summer, he gets moved off that active list and onto reserve PUP, because realistically, he's not walking straight into training camp reps. Then you've got two more names on that PUP list, Sam Roberts and Thomas Fidone, who was that 7th-round pick from last year's draft. And you know what? That one stings a little bit for me personally, because if you remember, Thomas Fidone actually flashed quite a bit during last summer's practices and the preseason. Guy showed some real juice, showed some things that got people excited about his potential, but he's apparently been dealing with a nagging injury since the spring, and now he's opening camp on that active list too, which means he's going to miss the start of practices. Hopefully that's not a long-term thing and he can get back out there relatively soon, because I don't want to see that development stall out before it even really got going. So now let's circle back to the big question everybody actually wants answered here, and that's whether Malik Nabers can realistically be out there week 1 against the Cowboys. And look, I genuinely think the answer right now is trending toward yes. I'm not saying it's a lock, nothing in this league is ever a lock, but every single piece of evidence we've gotten recently is pointing in a positive direction. Think about what we already knew before today even happened. Back at the end of May, Nabers was out there at the Brian Burns charity softball event, and he was moving around, playing dodgeball, rounding the bases after hitting some home runs. Now, I'm not saying dodgeball is the same thing as running a slant route against press coverage, but the guy was moving laterally, he looked comfortable on that leg, and there wasn't anything about the way he was moving that looked hesitant or guarded. On top of that, he's been posting videos all offseason of himself training, doing squats, doing leg work, clearly putting in the effort to rebuild strength around that knee. You don't do all that grinding if you're not aiming for week 1. So, the Giants had every opportunity to play it safe and stick him on the active pup list just to buy themselves some cushion, and they chose not to. That's a decision, that's not an accident. That tells me the team's medical staff and coaching staff are aligned on the belief that this guy can be ready to roll sooner rather than later. And when I connect that with what John Harbaugh already said about him not being far behind Cam Scatterbo in terms of return timeline, it really does paint a picture of a receiver who's trending toward being available for that season opener. Now, am I saying he's going to go out there in the preseason and take live reps against another team? No, I really doubt that happens. I think they hold him out of actual preseason game action no matter what. But training camp reps, walkthroughs, individual work ramping into team drills, I think we see progression there sooner than a lot of people expected just a month ago. And honestly, guys, that's exactly why this game against Dallas matters so much. Divisional opponent, prime time, and if this offense is going to hit the ground running with a new scheme and a young quarterback taking on more responsibility, having your number 1 receiver out there from the jump makes an enormous difference. So I'm walking away from today feeling a lot more optimistic than I did yesterday, and I think once veterans report next week and we actually see Malik Nabers on that practice field with pads on, we're going to get an even clearer picture of exactly how close he really is. So that's where I'm at with it, guys. Malik Nabers dodging that pup list is a real, tangible sign that week 1 is very much in play for him, and everything else we're seeing lines up with that. Let me know down below what you think. Are you buying into this positive momentum, or are you still holding your breath a little bit? Appreciate you guys watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Let's go. Big Blue.